So I actually went off on somebody on Facebook today, this morning. The amount of like bad information and like, you know, armchair experts and quarterbacks was kind of legendary between like Facebook and the forums. And I feel bad for you guys, younger guys, because the only way you know to glean information on these things is through things like Facebook and, you know, the various forums and whatnot. But like sometimes it just jumps out in your face, and like, for instance, to give you an example, we did that Understanding the Slant 6 video a couple of months ago. And like right away, people on the Slant 6 forum started going nuts. One guy was like, his information can't be accurate. He didn't consult us, you know? I'm like, oh, come on, right? I didn't say anything. But this morning, a friend of mine, local guy, bracket racer, really good guy. And he knows his stuff. He's not an idiot. Posted pictures. Over the weekend, he grenaded his motor. So he posted carnage pictures. And this is one of them right here. But I'll get to that in a second. So I look at the thread, and I'm like, you know, oh, engine carnage. Everybody loves to see engine carnage, right? But for me, engine carnage kind of has a special meaning. I spent enough time around nitro cars that like engine carnage is like a warm, fuzzy blanket that I pull over myself, right? I know, you know, how to dissect what happened to an engine. So he posts these pictures, and like the first one that catches my eye, I see what went wrong, okay? So he was like the first one that I actually noticed. And here you're looking down the cylinder, okay? And here's a hole in the cylinder wall. And then here's the crank. And then if you look, there's the journal. And the journal is blue, okay? So there's only one thing that can turn a journal blue, and it's heat. All right, so what exactly happened here? So I go and I look at other pictures, and here's a picture, same cylinder from the bottom, okay? So here's blue on the journal, here's discoloration on the cheek of the crank, and if you look carefully, go closely up here, and I don't know if you can see it on the, you know, through this, but you can see that the chrome is actually like wrinkled up like aluminum foil around the oil hole. So the only thing that can cause that is an extreme amount of heat for, you know, a relatively long period of time. It's not going to happen just in a blink of an eye. Like if you snap a rod, this was, you know, prolonged friction. So what could have caused this? A couple things. A bad chrome job that started to lift. An engine that was built with too tight an oil clearance. Race engines are funny like that. They want loose clearances because things start to rock around and move a little bit, and a rod only has to be out just a few thousandths of an inch to actually crunch down on the oil surface and cause that kind of friction. Or I've seen this happen before. This is a full radius crank as opposed to a stock factory fillet radius, and so they may have used a rod bearing that was too wide for the journal, and it caught here and partially spun the bearing. Or they didn't chamfer it. You know, there's a lot of things that will cause this, but this was not, you know, an instant thing that happened. This was probably over the course of a couple of passes, and eventually the heat got to the rod, it broke the bolts, and then the rest of the carnage ensued. So, you know, to me, it's obvious that the problem was directly related to the bearing and the crank surface. So now I start to read through the comments. Don't read through the comments on these things, right? Some guy chimes in, the block went first. I've seen it happen before. The block went first and turned this journal blue, okay? So let's go back to this other picture. And right here. And you can see there's clearly a hole in the block. But never mind that the rod came apart. The rod, there's other pictures that show the rod shattered into a bunch of different pieces. Never mind, I mean, that's perfectly normal damage when you break a rod. The crank comes up, smacks it, and puts it through the cylinder wall. Not a big deal. Then another guy chimes in, right? And he's like, yeah, the cylinder wall looks you know, thin. I agree with the first guy, right? I'm like, so I said, how, right? And he says, well, I had a friend of mine that had a 440 and had a crack in the cylinder wall, and it hydraulic itself on in second gear. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's fine. Where's the hole? The hole, here's the bottom of the rings. Okay, the hole is in the oil. The hole isn't in the swept area of the rings. So there's no way, if that hole was there or a crack was there, that it could have hydraulic the cylinder. How do people come up with this stuff? This pisses me off. This is like an epidemic. You can't read through, anybody asks a question or posts any sort of like things like this. And these experts come out of the woodwork with, I've seen it happen, I know what happened, blah, blah. And it's like, they're coming up with stuff that's like completely from outer space. If you're a young guy, right? Or not even a young guy, if you're just really starting to get your feet wet into the nuts of these things, right? And you're trying to learn by reading through other people's comments and just stop, okay? You're going to fill your mind with garbage. There's a lot of people out there, they're experts. The whole hot rod thing is like a dick swinging contest. And when you get to like the forums and you get to like, especially Facebook, this is like where all of the guys say, oh, I got to show my prowess. I got to show how much I know. I got to throw my answer in there. Yeah, there's a bunch of ass clowns out there. Beware of them. There are some good forums. I'm not saying that everybody on the internet and every forum is bad, but you've really got to hunt for them. You've got to find, if you're looking for engine information, stay away from Facebook. Stay away from like general forums. Find engine builder forums, if you're trying to find basic, setups and how-tos with, like suspensions or whatever, find suspension forums, go to auto electric forums if you're looking for answers for questions like that. Go to very specific targeted forums where there are people who do this stuff for a living, and this is where they exchange ideas and they yap with each other. But Facebook in general, honestly, for automotive information, I mean, some people would argue for a lot of reasons, but for automotive information, it's cancer. Stay away from it. That's it. Rant over. See you guys tomorrow.